All right, hi guys. I'm Thomas Rotondo. This is my assessment number two for 5020. The place that I've chosen to do my research on is the Merri Creek. As I live in Coburg, it's the land of the Woiwurrung people, and more specifically, this creek is similar name to our council, which has just changed from Moreland City Council to Merri Council to reflect the Indigenous people and the Indigenous land that we actually live on. I've chosen this creek as I've gone through it multiple times throughout my life. Every couple of weeks, I'm always traveling through there, and I know it's got a strong connection to the Indigenous people, but I've never actually kind of taken that all in. I've kind of just gone through my day, walking the dog, bits and pieces like that. So to actually do some further research into this and see its actual connection to the Aboriginal people in my community has been a real eye opener. And yeah, I feel like I'm going to give you guys a bit of an insight into that through this presentation. Just before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and just want to give a quick little background that the Merri Creek, it goes all the way up to Wallen, and it goes through Northcote, goes all the way through, connecting many different lakes and many different suburbs. So although I do live in Coburg, and that is a section I'm focusing on, this doesn't just stay in Coburg itself. This goes all throughout northern Melbourne and connects a lot of Indigenous lands, as well as this lake and creek, I guess, has kind of changed over the years with a lot of modernization and colonization and so forth. So we're going to touch on that as well. All these sources will be in the annotated bibliography in a separate document. I just thought I'd quickly just chuck them in here in case you want to see where I got some of my information from. But otherwise, to give you guys a little quick history about the Merri Creek. So the Wurundjeri William is the original inhabitants of the northern suburbs, being in Coburg where I live, and they are part of the Woiwurrung language and the Kulin Nation, and their names come from Waran, meaning white gum tree, which I actually passed a few times whilst doing a few walks during this creek. There are influential leaders in these groups, such as the Bilberry people, which played a crucial role in the early European contact, and their territory extended from the Yarra's northern bank, as I said, to the Merri Creek. Um, yeah, centuries ago, like it looks like, in 1835, John Batman, which is a prominent name in around Coburg, the Batman Station. Yeah, Batman seems to be a very prominent name. Negotiated what he saw as a treaty with the Wurundjeri elders, and saw this lovely stream as the Merri Creek. However, this agreement, based on a misunderstanding, was later invalidated by the Governor Richard Burke, which denied the Wurundjeri control over their lands, which is very concerning. Society was then structured around totems like the Bunjuls and the Eaglehawks, Wah the Crow, and it also influenced marriages and other affiliations. This then followed seasonal movements such as camping along Merri Creek, and women were central to gathering food and other fish, ducks, and other things like that, whilst men hunted bigger game such as kangaroos and emus. This creek has hosted significant historical events, not just now but in the past, such as Aboriginal schools and Native police corps in the 1800s, which reflects the Wurundjeri's adaptation to new societal challenges. Last little bit of history is there are many gatherings such as tandarums, which is pictured below, and I'll touch on in my bibliography, which allows safe passages and resource sharing amongst clans, which really underlines our Wurundjeri's social and spiritual connection to the creek. There are many large gatherings here and demonstrates their cultural importance. Touching to today, the Merri Creek's historical and archaeological sites are then protected under the Victorian Heritage Act 2006, which again I will touch on in the bibliography, which really touches on the Creek Management Committee's efforts as well to support the Wurundjeri land and Wurundjeri people into leading inclusion and the register on the national estate, preserving both pre and post contact heritage. So just touching on the story, I guess, a story which I felt had a really big correlation between the Creek and Aboriginal stories is the actual Dreamtime stories. The Dreamtime stories is a prominent story, I guess, told by Indigenous people, and it commentates and perfectly interlinks with that of the Merri Creek. So this story touches on Bunjil the eagle, and it demonstrates the Indigenous' connection to the creek. So in the time of the Dreamtime, long before the city of Melbourne and the Merri Creek emerged, I mean, the Merri Creek was there, the land was nurtured by the sacred waters of the Merri Creek. The Wurundjeri people, which are the traditional people of the land, used to always tell a story about Bunjil the eagle, a great ancestral creator. Bunjil was told to fly across skies and shape the earth, and imbuing the land and the spirits as it flew over the terrain, his keen eye saw potential for life and abundance in the landscape below, leading him to carve out the path of the Merri Creek. The waters that flowed through this path were not just physical, but also carried a lot of spiritual essence in the land and created a living connection between the people, the flora, the plants and whatnot, and other fauna. So according to this story, Bunjil saw the dry lands around what is now known as the Merri Creek and decided to carve a path with its powerful wings to guide the waters from the mountains to the sea. This act was not only created a lifeline for the flora and fauna, but also established a spiritual connection and practical resource for the Wurundjeri people. The creek became a place for gathering food and conducting ceremonies and teaching the young generations about their responsibilities of caring for the land and the creek. So their interconnectedness between the creek and the land kind of reflects their broader understanding of the world around them. And it kind of shows where every element of nature is respected and cherished as a part of a greater whole. So this is the story which kind of touches on that, Bunjil the Eagle. I watched a very informative video on YouTube, which I've linked below, which Auntie Gail Smith kind of tells us how the Merri Creek was named. So Merri Creek actually means rocky in Woiwurrung language, which is something I didn't know. So I felt very informed learning about this. This is because of the rocky beds and the winding paths of the creek. Is seen as a gift from Bunjil and offers protection and sustenance for the people who use it. So for the Wurundjeri people, these natural elements are not merely just a resource to be used, but they're actually about stories and lessons to be passed on through generations. So this rich oral tradition ensures that the cultural and spiritual significance of the Merri Creek remains a central part of Wurundjeri life and kind of influences their customs and their social structures and their kind of relationship with the land, which the video kind of tells me, and really connects the story to the people. And just the last couple of pieces, just kind of connecting their past of the Merri Creek to more contemporary and more pressing issues that happen in the current day. So the Merri Creek, as I've said, is intertwined with addressing climate change, urban development, and other cultural preservation. So this kind of wasn't part of their history, but it's something that is very prevalent in the present day, trying to keep these things under wraps so that the actual Merri Creek can thrive to the next generations. So as a natural corridor through urban Melbourne, obviously this creek plays a very critical role in mitigating the impacts of climate change and kind of serves as a green space that cools the city and provides a lot of refuge for wildlife. There are a lot of possums, platypuses. I've seen snakes there. I've seen a lot of other animals through my time. So there are a lot of native animals that go through this creek. So these efforts, I guess, are a testament to the power of the community and the action of the community for potential change when groups kind of work together for this common goal. So these initiatives kind of serve as a little bit of a bridge between the past and the present of the Merri Creek, which kind of fosters a deeper understanding and respect for the Indigenous history and the environmental stewardship. So by involving Indigenous voices in this decision-making process, there is a hope for a future where this kind of Dreamtime lessons are informed in their sustainable practices. The collaboration between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities kind of embodies the spirits of reconciliation and shows that healing the land is inseparable from healing relationships in the past. And this holistic approach recognizes that environmental and social justices are interconnected and that we are to support one another in this area. As well as this, through the lens of the Merri Creek, we can kind of also see the potential for healing and partnership within the community by embracing community Indigenous perspectives and practices. We can kind of work together for a more sustainable and inclusive future. And this creek kind of, with its stories, invites us to kind of become as custodians of the land, ensuring that it's also healthy and viable for future generations to come. So even though it is not our historical land, we can still play our part in maintaining this for future generations, which kind of links to the past and how we can kind of solve this in the present. And more here, touching a bit more on contemporary issues. I was reading a lot on the Merri Creek Management Committee, which has a vast set of knowledge about the history of the Merri Creek and kind of current conservation efforts. So yeah, this contemporary renaissance, I guess, of the Merri Creek is a bit of a blend of ecological restoration and civil revitalisation, which is kind of rooted in a collaboration between both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. So this creek obviously symbolises reconciliation and addresses a lot of injustices faced by these Indigenous communities. And this is obviously touched on in the MCMC, the Merri Creek Management Committee. So yeah, by I guess collaborating with the Wurundjeri people, the committee incorporates the traditional ecological knowledge, which is TEK, and ensures that restoration efforts are guided by the long-standing practices. So, people whose land it isn't kind of just do whatever they want. We have to kind of get consultation and make sure that we're doing the best under how the elders would like things done. And this restoration kind of resonates with the Dreamtime story, which I've kind of incorporated by particularly, with the tale of Bunjil the eagle who has carved out the Merri Creek. So the story, I guess, kind of underscores the sacred relationship between the land and its custodians, highlighting the stewardship and the balance that we need. This restoration reflects the natural harmony described in the Dreamtime story and honors the spiritual connection between the land and its people, reinforcing the idea that us humans play a crucial role in environmental harmony. The last little bit is, the culture revitalisation is a major crucial step with the Wurundjeri people, which kind of actively engages in initiating and highlighting Merri Creek's culture significance. So they collaborate, I guess, this group, the Waywurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Group, they collaborate with educational programs and events which foster a deeper understanding among Australians. I tried to go to one of these, but they weren't running one at the time, but I'll definitely keep an eye out. So yeah, this integration of the TEK kind of embodies the Dreamtime principles and ensures that culture practices and stories remain central to the community identity and environmental management. This aligns with the ongoing struggle for Indigenous land rights and recognition and holds the Wurundjeri role as the custodians and strengthens the reconciliation efforts. For I guess a further understanding of this, there are a lot of resources on the MCMC and the Wurundjeri Corporation, along with a lot of other government documents, such as the 2006 Act, which I've put in my annotated bibliography, in case you wanted to further research on this. But I found a lot of great resources, I guess, from those main three places: MCMC, the Wurundjeri Corporation, and the 2006 Act. So that is my multimedia presentation. We'll have a annotated bibliography and my reflection separate, but I hope you really enjoyed listening through this. It took me a lot of time to kind of research all this, but I found it really worthwhile, as now I can actually kind of, when I walk past the Merri Creek day in, day out, I can kind of draw on these knowledge, I guess, and it makes me a bit more connected to the land. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.